Solana is one of the best performing projects in all of 2021. But the real question is it the next EOS or is the hype for real? In this video, I'm gonna share my take on that question. I'll evaluate some of the bold claims that they've made, like they are the fastest blockchain out there, and that they've solved the infamous blockchain trilemma. I'll also share why I think this guy is gonna be the difference maker for the long haul. So if you got your eyes on Solana and want to learn more, just strap in, my friend, and let's dive right in. Hey there, I'm Kevin from BFB, and my goodness, Solana was a super complex project to research and understand. It took me hours of reading blog posts, watching interviews, and even then, I feel like I'm just scratching the surface. But I want to point out that many of the YouTubers I watched were straight up sharing wrong information. It wasn't malicious or anything like that. I can just tell they skimmed through a couple articles and summarized that info for us without really checking for accuracy. Specifically, there's one key component about Solana that a lot of them got wrong. I'll share that with you in a bit, but I'll also include all of the articles, threads, and videos I consumed down in the description below, so you can independently verify everything I say and let me know if I got anything wrong. But first, what is Solana anyways? It's a third-generation blockchain that supports smart contracts and decentralized apps. So yet another Ethereum competitor. Boring. Well, that's what I thought at first, which is why I didn't pay much attention to Solana when I first came across it. But that's to my detriment, because the closer I looked, the more promising things that I found. For example, their network is designed to reach 710,000 transactions per second and 100 millisecond block times at its theoretical limit. These are mind-boggling numbers, and it's almost 30 times faster than the formidable Visa network. Now, of course, this hasn't been proven in the real world yet, but they've already achieved industry-leading speeds such as 65,000 transactions per second and a 400 millisecond block time. You can check out this table right here to see how Solana stacks up against other layer 1 blockchains like Ethereum, BSC, Polkadot, and so forth. So even at a fraction of its theoretical limit, Solana is still one of the fastest, if not the fastest, blockchain out there. This is all made possible by their impressive innovations on the technical side. They have 8 specific innovations, but I want to zoom in on the most important one called proof of history. And this is where the huge misconception lies. A lot of YouTubers paint this as the next evolution of proof of work or proof of stake, but that's not the case at all. It works in conjunction with Solana's proof of stake algorithm. See right here, straight from the horse's mouth. Basically, in blockchain networks, it's hard for participants to agree on time, like which messages or transactions came first. Because remember, you got to do everything in a trustless manner. You can't just point to some external clock or trust someone else's timestamp. Proof of history uses cryptography to create a trusted source of time for the entire network in a decentralized manner. It gets a little bit complicated, but what you gotta know is this. Other blockchains have their nodes talk to each other to agree on time, but that process slows things down. Whereas in Solana, nodes can create their own timestamps and send it out to other nodes who can quickly verify its accuracy. So you don't have to wait for all those confirmations before proceeding. This is pretty huge because it opens the door to a lot of major improvements, like drastically shorter block times and way faster block propagation. All of this boils down to ridiculous speeds for apps and us end users too. Now, because Solana is so fast and scalable, they don't need any sharding or layer 2 solutions like Ethereum requires. They argue that this is a huge benefit because it's much simpler for developers to build directly on top rather than dealing with different shards or integrating with a layer 2 solution. After all, it does come down to developers because you need talented devs to build useful apps on top of your blockchain in order for it to succeed long term. But on that note, Solana has made some curious decisions that may handicap it from attracting the most developers possible. For example, you need to use the Rust programming language to write smart contracts, and there's just not as many devs out there that know Rust. It's also a little bit more complex for devs to learn, since it requires low-level memory management and things like that. Another hurdle is that Solana smart contracts are not EVM compatible. And that just means that all the dApps on the Ethereum network can't be easily ported over. Other chains found quick adoption because they supported those tried and true smart contracts found on Ethereum, but in Solana, you're gonna have to write them from scratch. All of these technical achievements and decisions are really not surprising if you take a closer look at CEO Anatoly Yakovenko's background. He spent over a decade working at Qualcomm on wireless technology and distributed systems. So he was able to create techniques like proof of history by combining his knowledge in other fields with his knowledge of blockchain. Honestly, Anatoly and his core team are stellar on the tech side, so no concerns from me there. One big claim that I've seen floating around is that Solana has solved the infamous blockchain trilemma. But before we dive into that, I want to take a quick moment to thank our sponsors for this video, Matrixport. They are a crypto bank that offers a bunch of different services like lending, interest accounts, trading, and custody. But for new users, they have two awesome offers that you can take advantage of right now. One is their fixed income product that offers a whopping 30% annualized yield for a 3-week period. Two is their dual currency product, which you can try out for free and keep any profits generated. If that sounds enticing to you, be sure to sign up using my link down below. Now, as to the blockchain trilemma, that's the concept that for any given blockchain, you need to make some trade-offs when it comes to security, speed, and decentralization. The idea is that you have to pick two and sacrifice the third one. Here's a great visual from Masari that shows which coins lie on which side of the trilemma per se. Some choose speed and security over decentralization, while others choose a different mix. But Solana claims to be fast, secure, and decentralized all at once. Now, as you can imagine, this claim is heavily debated on the interwebs, mainly between doubters and Anatoly himself. Of course, Solana is fast and secure, no arguments there. But critics say that it's not decentralized because you need expensive hardware that costs thousands of dollars in order to be a validator or block producer. Just look at this specs chart straight from their website. These hefty devices are needed to reach the high performance that they promise. It's not as approachable as other blockchains where you can literally run a node on a Raspberry Pi, which means that millions of people could be validators. Generally speaking, the more independent validators you have, the better, because they can all keep each other in check and call out any big players that try to pull shenanigans. Anatoly responds that right now they have hundreds of validators, and they know that it's not enough, so they're working hard at getting more. When asked how they can ensure that these validators are independent rather than just one whale spinning up a bunch, Anatoly says there's no easy answer, and it comes down to good old-fashioned community building. He also pushes back on the criticisms of their hefty hardware requirements because he says that they're building for the future, and if we look at how hardware evolves over the years, they get more and more powerful and substantially cheaper every year. I do think he has a point there. Just look at the iPhone specs. It has literally improved 1000x in the past decade. So while their hardware is unaffordable right now, maybe it'll be cheap in a few years. Now, I want to note that all of this could change though, because they're still early and they're still in beta. Just don't expect a polished network with zero hiccups because they're still ironing out some things. Like in December of last year, their network froze for several hours because of an issue with a block producer. Also, right now, validators need to verify their identity because the team hasn't implemented defense mechanisms yet, like slashing. They also haven't implemented some important features like the ability to verify the source of on-chain programs, which you can see here on their GitHub. My point here is that Solana is young and can evolve, so some of the things I mentioned before may change in the future. But even though they are early, they're one of the few next-generation blockchains that are actually live and operational. Ashwath, a researcher from Delphi Digital, points out that Solana has way more activity and working products compared to other larger blockchains that don't even have their infrastructure ready yet. Cardano, Polkadot. So we gotta give them props for their rapid execution. Now, before you go and buy some Sol, let's dig into the actual token a bit more. There are 4 main use cases for Sol. You can stake it to validate, earn rewards in it, participate in governance, and pay gas fees with it. This is somewhat similar to the role of ETH and Ethereum, but of course Solana is already proof of stake and Ethereum not quite yet. One clutch detail is that the Sol gas fees are burned, so that's a source of deflationary pressure which can help the token price. It's not all rainbows and sunshine though. A lot of people criticize Solana's token distribution and release schedule. They had initially 500 million tokens in their total supply, and 90% of that became unlocked in January of 2021. Only around 270 million of those are currently circulating, but that's purely because the foundation chose not to release it all at once. If you look at the token distribution, over 60% is controlled by the founders, the foundations, and the VCs. Only 38% is designated for the community, and I don't like that at all. Too many whales. If you look at this graphic by Messari, most other blockchains out there have a way better distribution that's not so concentrated for insiders. A lot of people on Twitter were predicting a massive dump for the price of Sol in January, but when that didn't happen, they said that it was because the whales colluded to hold rather than dump. But push all that aside, I think the biggest reason to like Solana is their bustling ecosystem, which is ultra important for any smart contracts platform. We don't want them to end up like EOS or Tron after all, which are zombie chains. There's over $500 million in stablecoins on the Solana network now. Also, many notable projects like Audius, which we made a video about before, and Kin are migrating over to Solana, while others like Serum decided to build on Solana from the get-go. This last one is huge because Serum is the decentralized exchange that's being built by Sam Bankman-Fried and his FTX team. They said they were evaluating their options for several months, but Solana was the only one that can handle the extreme performance that they were looking for. SBF is an amazing asset to have in your corner because he's the founder of Alameda Research and FTX exchange and can lend a ton of support and capital to help Solana thrive. So with these projects intentionally choosing Solana and with powerful backers like SBF, they got a much better chance to succeed than some of their other competitors that are struggling to grow organically. For me, I own a tiny bit of Sol right now and it could rocket in the short term. Long term though, I think they have great promise, but ultimately it will come down to whether or not they can grow their ecosystem organically. Can they build some amazing apps on top, like Serum for example, and demonstrate to devs that Solana can do things that other blockchains cannot? That's the million-dollar question here. What do you think about Solana though? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you like my analysis, please smash the like button. I'm Kevin from BFB. Why not watch some of our other videos next? I'll see you soon and cheers.